Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, Bob Stewart over there. Bob, my friend, how are you today?
Chad, can I tell you what I did last week?
No.
Wait.
See,
what?
why do you ask? You're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I am. Our company had 1,000 people in Anaheim, California for a big event. And then the day after the event, we sent those 1,000 people to Disneyland.
Yes, I knew that. I got to see all of it. I didn't get my invite, but I got to see all of it happening. I'm surprised you came home.
I didn't go to Disneyland.
What? Bob Stewart missed the free opportunity to attend Disneyland.
I did. And
because?
I'm not, well, the main reason is I had a kids basketball tournament to get home to. I'm a full-time chauffeur on the side of my regular job. I chauffeur my children all around the state of Washington. So that was the main reason. But the other reason was, Disneyland's not the same without my wife. Like that's my wife and I's thing, So going to Disneyland without my wife, that's a no for me.
Bob,
there's actually one more reason.
Which is?
Our company's awesome. I love all of the humans that are a part of it, but they like to give me ideas, which we love. We love the feedback. But Chad, I didn't want to be trapped in a line for an hour with 80 people around me just giving ideas left and right, and I would have been ideaed out, I think, by the end of my time with Mickey. So I skipped this the first time ever. I would.
Wow.
Not probably the last time, but
I would have lost money because you and I have another podcast basically that we do on the day after we record this, and you didn't show. I figured you were still hiding in the Magic Kingdom somewhere.
No. No. All right. I just no-showed you there, bud.
We'll make fun of you in that on another.
I do that all the time on this podcast, by the way, but never on that other one.
Absolutely. You stand me up here all the time.
But I wasn't missing today.
No.
I wasn't missing today.
Because of our guest.
Yeah, I got a bunch of questions to ask this guy. We use their software, and so I am really hoping.
Let's be clear, though, Bob. I'm putting blinders on you like the horses at Churchill Downs, right? We are focused on the growth for our audience, not you getting tech support.
Okay, fine.
All right. You can have one tech support question if you want. Do you want to introduce our guest then, Bob, since you're so excited he was our guest today?
No, I won't, because we don't introduce our guests. We have them introduce themselves. So I will welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, Mark Roberge. Did I get your last name right? Right, Mark?
That's perfect, Bob. It's funny because my grandmother's pronounced it Roberge, but I grew up in hardcore Central Mass, driving north on 495 and went to undergrad with a heavy Boston accent, and everyone thought my name was Mike Roberge. And so I just kept it. So that's how I pronounce it. I think it's more proper anyway. So thank you for nailing it.
Got it. My mother-in-law's aunt just passed away. She was 101 years old. Her name was Dorothy Roberge. Dorothy
Roberge.
She live? They live up
in Maine or Canada or where?
No, Western Washington. I don't know. They've been out
migrated, chasing gold or something back in the day.
Totally.
Or chasing pickleball, because we know Bob was there when it all started.
Yeah.
All right, Mark. Bob was saying it. We don't introduce our guests. We're not going to say who you are. We want you to put you on the spot. Introduce yourself as you want.
I bet you have a really good pre-written bio, though.
Quiet down there.
I bet the pre-written bio is off the charts.
We'll pick it apart.
There you go.
I would say,
Mark?
At the age of 23, I discovered the craft of entrepreneurship, something that you guys love too. And I never looked back. I would say underlying, I'm a tech entrepreneur at heart, but I find interesting ways to express it, I suppose. So for the first 2 decades of my career, I did a bunch of tech startups. The one that Bob was referencing is the one I'm probably most known for. I was the 4th employee and founding sales leader at HubSpot and grew that revenue org through the IPO over a 9-year period. So Bob, unfortunately, I did lead the development of the CRM and many of the tools. I haven't worked there in 12 years, so I don't know if I can help you with those, which button to click. But yeah, I hung it up from there 12 years ago. In full transparency, wanted to take a break, as I know you guys have had those opportunities in your career, and had the good fortune within a week of giving my notice that I was called by Harvard Business School to build and teach their first courses on sales. They're finally teaching sales over there. And the students love it. It's like I put 500 students through this class every year. It's one of the most, I'm blessed and honored to say that is one of the most popular classes at the school. And it allows me to continue to study this craft from many different angles. That led me to a bunch of independent board seats over the years and eventually founding a venture capital firm called Stage 2 Capital 8 years ago. We're managing 4 funds now, and our unique differentiation is we're backed by 1,000 of what we feel are the best sales leaders in tech. So pick a company from Anthropic to OpenAI to LinkedIn to Salesforce to SAP to GitHub to Databricks. Those sales leaders are our LPs, and every day we go out and put them to work to help the next generation of entrepreneurs scale their businesses.
My goodness, those sales leaders, like
crazy.
You guys, like collectively, have sold more than any collective of humans.
We should put the number together. It has to be well into the trillions, and it's just this beautiful metaphorical organ that I get to play every day and learn and deploy into the startup ecosystem.
Bob, I usually give you question number 1. You want it? Because I've got one if you're not ready.
Go ahead. I mean, there's a million ways we could go here today, I think.
We all know the joke, right? How do you know when somebody went to Harvard? Right? They'll tell you, right? so Mark, Harvard Business School is something that most of us have not attended. We've read many of the books and stuff that are put out and all that kind of stuff. Take us to school. If we were all students, if the entrepreneurs listening to this podcast right now, we're all students in class, what is something they would walk away at the end of the school year and say, holy shit?
So first off, that branding is not true anymore, I guess, since I've been there. I have 60% men, 40% women. The less than 30% are from the US. I have students from Africa, from South America, from Asia, from military, from nonprofit. It is a beautiful, diverse group that is important for the learning because we have to debate all these principles from many different angles. So it's wonderful to be able to do that. We start the class, ironically, Bob, with this book called What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School that was written, I think, back in the 70s and 80s. It's all about sales. And we're like, hey, we're going to put this book out of business. And you got to imagine, so we call this class founder selling because most students don't show up to the class thinking they're going to carry a quota somewhere. A lot of them end up doing it once they learn about the career. But a lot of them are wanting to start businesses. And I asked them, hey, show me your sales process. And it's like a 27 slide deck about their product. And I'm like, okay. And then I put up a chart produced by this company called Gonda.io, which is an AI listener for sales calls. I'm like, this is an analysis of 150,000 first sales meetings. And look at what this says. The top reps speak less than half the time on the first call, and the worst reps speak over 80% on the first call. What did you just do? And they're like, oh my gosh, I just did
barfed up 26 slides.
And I'm like, what the heck are they doing if they're not talking? And we start to unwind that beautiful riddle in the early phases of sales of like, this is all about asking open-ended questions to understand your buyer's problems and their perspective on that problem and deciding if you can solve it. And if so, tailor the pitch accordingly. And like light bulbs go off in these Ferrari minds and they're off and running. So I would say, Bob, that would probably be my favorite thing, probably something you all teach folks that are entered in your respective disciplines on what sales really is. It's not provocative. It's not like arm wrestling someone in a solution. It's a real, it's almost like you're a therapist or a doctor and you're constantly out there diagnosing situations and educating people and help them make the right call, which is probably your solution.
So selling is questions, not convincing.
Exactly. Understanding, it's discovery and qualification to see if you can help this person and then tailoring the pitch if you can.
How do you segue that to social selling? Like I was reading on your bio that at some point somebody said you were one of the top social sellers in the world.
Sure.
Yeah. Fortune magazine or somebody important. Like given that social tends to be me broadcasting my message.
You're great.
How do you make that kind of segue to listening to the consumer on social?
Yeah, like social selling, it kind of got big 15 years ago when like Twitter and all those things were taking off. And it was massively concerned that you could DM someone and close a deal. And that was not the case. Social selling was really around largely a replacement of like identifying folks at the awareness stage and engaging them. Once you did, you were back into probably a more traditional funnel of like either an in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting, depending on your context. So that was really social selling, was replacing the knocking on doors per se, or at least complementing it with just being active out there in social where your buyers are hanging out and not being like, look at me and look at my product, but adding value to that discussion. That's really what social selling was and is.
Has it changed from when, those early days? Is it more important today? Because I think arguably
it's like equally, if not more. Yeah. It's like the importance is correlated to what the buyer wants and where they are. And so that's a big thing of what shifted is like, depending on who you're selling to, like if you're selling to engineers, you have to be active in like GitHub repositories right now. You got to be active in Discord. I'm trying to like beef up my branding in like 22-year-old founder, techies, and I'm building up a TikTok following that I hadn't done as like a B2B software seller, So you just have to shift when buyer hangouts shift, you have to align. And I would say the bar on value add has increased. I would say like 15 years ago, if you had to choose between putting out 25 B+ comments in a month versus 5 really well architected thought leadership, you'd probably do the volume game. It probably would have a higher ROI. Now is different. When you get out there, you better be saying something unique and highly valuable to be able to stand out from the noise.
That's a great point you're bringing up there, Mark. Folks, social media now, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook, still, whatever it is, one, we hear from other experts. I'm putting quotes around that for those who can't see me. Experts in the field. They're saying you got to be on all of them. No, you got to be where your audience is, yes. Right? You don't have to worry when you're sitting there going, oh my God, I'm not on this one. Okay, if your audience isn't there, don't worry about it. And two, you've got to be bringing value. It's quality over quantity when it comes to the social media. That's how you stand out, get noticed, and have the interaction at high levels nowadays. That's a fantastic point you brought up there, Mark, when it comes to how social is selling.
Quick tactical add-on there real quick, that Chad, that few people pick up is like, they'll go, where do I get started? Just go find people that your buyers already follow. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not Kim Kardashian. You're not trying to find like the 50 million, like someone with 10,000, 30,000 people. Maybe they write for the industry, publication. Maybe they're in a tangential product CEO. Maybe they're a CEO that people are aspiring to and they follow them. Just follow those people and watch what they're talking about and comment on that stuff. It gets you noticed. That's a great way to carve out basically your TAM, your addressable market online.
Love it. Okay, we're going to shift gears. We're going to go from selling. Folks, you all just graduated Harvard Business School. Congratulations from what Mark just shared. Now you can tell everyone you went. We're going to go from selling to scaling, because what we're really talking about today is your second book. It's The Science of Scaling, using data to decide when and how fast to scale revenue. And folks, you can go on Amazon to get a copy of it. The Science of Scaling. Mark, and his last name is spelled Roberge. If you're there looking, Mark, I'm going to get the book. I'm going to flip through it really quickly. What's something that's going to jump out of that book at me that I'm going to be like, I'm glad I read that?
The first North Star of the business is not sales and customer count. It's creating customer value. Like every founder like stands up, okay, I'm starting a real estate firm, start a law firm, I'm starting XYZ. And they're just like, I got to get to 100,000 in revenue, 1 million in revenue, 2 million in revenue. That's the end point. And you run the significant risk that you end up with a pile of great contracts and a bank account that's flowing and a bunch of people that never saw the value that you pitched and delivered them, that you pitched them on. And you've got to look at the end point of your sales funnel as that customer realizing the value that you sold them on and wanting to buy more from you and wanting to tell all their friends. And it's just so easy for CEOs, founders, business owners to make that mistake and make their North Star the revenue line.
How hard is it to boil down like what that actual value is? Like, did you guys
What's the business? Give me an example.
HubSpot.
Sure. It was if the customer, so in our type of business, usually a great quantitative measure of value creation is retention.
Churn.
Right.
Sure.
So they bought from you, like you bought, Bob, and then you rebought because you used the product, it delivered the value and rebought. That's usually the best measure. And if you're a sweatshirt company, it's like they bought the winter line and they loved it and they bought the spring line. You know what I mean? Like if they're a real estate agent, they bought a house from you and then they sold their house through you, or they bought their next house.
In real estate, Mark, is really poor. There's a statistic every year, it changes by 1 or 2%. In the National Association of Realtors, 90% of buyers loved the job their agent did and would use them again or refer them in the future. And then 26% of sellers use the agent they bought from before. So there's this big gap, I guess, in the value. Right. A lot of that is the timing. It's 8 years later. It's
so
12 years
long.
later.
And that's in everything. Like if we go back to the HubSpot example that you asked about, Bob, like we really don't factually know the retention rate for a year later. And we just can't wait. So that's what one of the things in the book early on is you have to identify your leading indicator of retention, quantified. At HubSpot, it's like if you use 5 or more features every month. HubSpot's, for those of you who don't know, it's this big marketing and sales platform. There's like 30 features from a CRM to a social media tool to an email tool, et cetera. It's a platform. If you use 5 or more features every month, you will be with them forever. And if you don't, you will probably churn. And so if in a real estate situation, it's a little more difficult, obviously, because it's longer. But if you get a referral from your ex-client in the upcoming year, I would probably call that a lead indicator of retention. You did a good job. And if you didn't, you got to ask why and up-level your operations to be able to generate those referrals and make sure they're attached to you.
If you're in real estate, go rewind that and listen to that again.
Go
look right now. Like how many of your clients that you sold a house to last year, I mean, we're 4 months into the year already. How many of those people have mentioned your business to somebody else?
Yeah. Within 12 months of closing a transaction, how many of them have given you a referral? That's probably, as Mark's saying, a great way to know that you have retained them, and now your job is just to continue because sadly they won't come back.
This is one of those ones where like I just heard what he said, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I should have known this my entire life. I feel like a total moron. Like that's so obvious in the real estate space, but I don't know. I only know of one team that tracks that, Chad. Mike Hicks' team is the only team I know of that could tell me that number right immediately off the top of their head. Like 84% of their past clients make a referral to their business. And I've heard them talk about it. They're one of the largest teams in the United States. Oh my goodness. But I don't know that anybody else could tell you that. Man, Mark.
Yeah, my wealth manager just is another very traditional business. He tracks whether you log into their online portal every month. Like if you don't go online and look at your portfolio and what they're doing, you will likely churn because you're not seeing the value. But if you log in and you're like interacting with the portfolio dashboard that they put out there, you retain. So it's like, this is not just like tech companies. This is every business. You sold something. You're supposed to deliver value. You got to track that.
Folks, stop, pause, right? Go figure out what is your indicator in your industry, whether you're in real estate, as many of our audiences are, or one of the side businesses from it. Who's your clientele? And what is it that indicates they're staying? I love that. It might just be, are they logging into your website monthly, depending on what your industry is? Are they reading the newsletter that you're sending out every week or month, knowing that they're engaging? And are you tracking those open and read through rates? All of that stuff. Figure out what yours is and start paying attention to it.
Chad, who are you talking to? Like, it's just my mom and your mom that listen to this. And my mom's a real estate agent. So Mark already solved it for my mom.
They're playing Mahjong together right now, figuring out their lead indicator attention.
Her indicator is how much money she's walking home from her Mahjong game with in her little Mahjong purse that she carries each time. Yes, Bob. Thankfully, though, we have nobody admitting to it publicly, yet we know there's more than 2 listeners out there. And thank you to all 7 of you. Okay. So Mark, first lesson we just learned from you getting into the science of scaling is knowing that retention indicator, because I can't scale if I'm not keeping the people, because then I'm always just rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding. I'm not truly scaling, correct?
Yes, correct. So there's 2 steps to prepare for massive rapid scale. The first one is what we just covered, and I summarize it as product market fit, term that was kind of thrown out of tech. All that really means is you have proven that when you sell customers, they will see the value. You have set up your business operation so that you are delivering value. That's product market fit. Step 2 is you have to do that profitably, right? So like just because I'm generating value, if I'm working with one person all year, I don't have a business, right? Like I got to do that scale. So we typically have to extract that back to like, what they call unit economics. If you look at an individual seller, are they profitable? And you can extract that back to like, how many meetings do you have to book every week? And what's the average close rate? And what's the average sale price? Like we do these things haphazardly, but this just gets it back to a first principles of like, what is that we call it go-to-market fit model that you can put out there. And now I can start adding people and I'm watching my product market fit. Am I continually creating value as I add more and more salespeople? And I watch my go-to-market fit. Are they producing in a way that's profitable? And if that's going well, I'm just going to add faster. I'm going to start, if I'm a real estate firm, like, great, I want to build a big firm. Great. Let's start adding one new agent a quarter. And let's see if the value scores and the go-to-market fit scores go up or down. If they stay or go up, let's add 2 a quarter. And let's do that for like 6 months. And if they go up, let's add 4 a quarter. And then let's add 8 a quarter. And guess what? Now you're a friggin' really legit firm. And you did it in a scalable way, ensuring that it's going to be a real business. And because you've instrumented with all these lead indicators, you know the minute it breaks. You don't have to wait till the end of quarter, like gap accounting numbers to come out to say it's broken. You know the minute it's broken, where it's broken, so you can intervene, fix, and get back on the scale train.
You know what I love what Mark's saying here, Bob, is we hear the, throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. Mark's taking one piece of spaghetti and throwing it at the wall and saying, okay, I can throw that. Okay, let's throw 2 pieces of spaghetti, because that type of spaghetti, this wet, sticks to the wall. Instead of what we see so many entrepreneurs doing, I'm just going to throw this whole pot of spaghetti against the wall and really hope. And then I have no idea why it stuck. I have no idea why it didn't stick. I just hope I made this big company and it worked. Instead of scaling it properly, we just explode it and then hope it holds together.
Because that's why I went to this conference and I saw the founder of Remax, and that's what they did. So I'm just going to copy them, even though that was 50 years ago. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how many classes we have in college that teach us through rigorous frameworks how to account for and recognize our revenue. And there's the missing frameworks on how to scale it.
You mentioned value in there, Mark. In real estate, we don't want to say the value is the cost of a home. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what we provide as a value, because Bob and I could both go sell the same house to you, yet you might get a lot more value with Bob than you would with me, depending on what we're providing. How does our audience sit down, whatever industry they're in, and figure out what their value truly is? Because it's not always just the end product.
You just talk to customers. I mean, this gets back to like customer interviews when lots of time we're inventing products. We're not building products, we're solving problems, right? So like as an agent, I can go online and just buy something direct. Why do I not do that? I want an agent. Why do I want an agent? Whatever that answer is, that's the value. I want an agent because I'm going to do this once every 10 years and this person does it every week. I don't know like what I should be asking. I want to check the contracts. Am I getting a good value? How much should I negotiate? I think in that case, they're asking for the experience and they have a set of bullet points. And those set of value bullet points may differ in a real estate context. And so, but you guys have been around for decades. You probably know the top 10, and that's how we're defining value. And the more we can quantify that, the better.
Is there too much value? And what I mean by that, like if it's going to take me 27 slides to show you the value that I'm bringing to you, is that too much value that I'm focusing upon? How do I narrow it down to, look, these are really the 3 things that set me apart or my product apart from everybody else, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, we could like talk to someone for, like I said, we can work on one client a year. And I bet that client would see a lot of value from us. We could literally like wake up in the morning, drive over to their house, sit there with a cup of coffee for 8 hours a day for months and months and months, and they will love us. We don't have a business. Like I can't, so that's kind of the paradigm that we're trying to like, the two tensions is we want to maximize that value, but we also understand that we have to build a business. And I don't expect to like, when I go see my doctor, I don't expect for him to spend a week with me. I understand that he has a business to run himself and he has to deal with a bunch of patients. So we're just trying to, try to find that balance. And usually like that's where we started with the questioning and the discovery is everybody could have a slightly different perception of what they're going to value. And you can never figure that out by guessing. You just got to straight up ask them.
How do you ask them? Like,
why'd you take this meeting? That's the easiest one.
I want a couple like that. Like, that's a great one. Why'd you take this meeting? What are
that
some
one
other,
works almost all the time. Like, I might even go like, why'd you take this meeting? Like, just kind of explain to me, you've seen this house. Why did you choose to go with an agent? What are some of the concerns you have with moving forward? What are some of like the big areas of worry you have in making this purchase? Like just pretty, these are not yes, no questions. They're exploratory questions. And like people get nervous, like, oh, I don't know, like this is really stressful to me. 80% of the people just like take the bait and go off. And it's like a therapy session and it's the best. Like people just want to be heard. And when you can say, so basically what you're telling me, Chad, is, you didn't want to just buy it straight online because you haven't bought a house in 8 years. The rules have changed. Am I getting the right mortgage? Who should I use for a lawyer? Like, do I negotiate or not? Like, what are some of the questions I need to ask on like the regulations here? Like, that they're just going to go off and I need to like put those away. And when I regurgitate them back to them, you went from a 5% close rate to a 50%. They are understood. And they like you.
Somewhere during the transaction, whatever industry you're in, if you have client direct interaction, which you should, you're selling to somebody most likely if you're listening to our podcast in whatever industry, ask them, what is it that had you choose me? Right? Because now you're going to find out what they value about you, because some of the answers, yes. Okay. So in the example Mark just gave us, I used the realtor instead of buying the house alone because the rules have changed, because it's been 10 years, because I didn't know these things. Yet, folks, that doesn't mean the reason they chose you, because they could have then chosen anybody. Go deeper. Ask that question. What made you choose working with me? Now you're going to see the value that you provide even deeper at a level. And now what Mark's been telling us is now you got to make sure that value is known to everybody, and that you're providing that value because it's what worked here. It doesn't work for everyone, yet it probably works for your audience.
Well said. And I think that's like, the more you can reflect on what your unique value is and align with that, align your marketing. What can you do that no one else can do? You've been in this territory the longest. You have the most experience with this type of purchase or size of purchase. That's what you want to be emphasizing. And those are the types of buyers that you want to find are people asking for that.
I don't know how many leaders have taught us, Bob, that we hear the term a unique value proposition, have one. And then how many people sit there getting stuck attempting to create this unique value proposition blindly in a cave, basically, because they're doing it on their own and saying, well, here's the value that makes me unique.
You're saying instead of just asking one of their customers, Chad,
that's it.
Or 10 of their customers?
Go ask people and say, what do I do that's different, that is a unique value that you find? And now all of a sudden, well, this is why I want to call Mark for that. Now this is why, even though it's not something that Mark specializes in, I'm going to reach out and call Mark and say, Mark, I got a question about this, because he's provided me so much value over there. He's always going to have that mind share. He's always going to be there. That I'm not going to ask him medical questions. He's not coming across as a doctor, yet I'm going to ask him questions.
He went to Harvard, man.
no
I think I might ask him a medical question too.
Don't do it.
Okay,
that's the confusing. Yeah, I know one thing very well, and everyone thinks when you do that, but that's a great point, Chad. And another like leading indicator that you've done the job is like, that's really what sellers should be, is they should be the folks that reach out to when they have questions. And unfortunately, like we've tarnished the field over many decades, and that's starting to change. But you know that you've excelled at a very high level when former buyers are calling you up for advice. It's beautiful.
Mark, can I take this podcast like in complete left turn?
Go.
Okay. You mentioned we have about a minute. We usually get the chance to kind of prep our guests before we get going because we don't want this scripted. We like to throw them into the fire. We like to say, here we go. Let's just make this genuine. Yet something I believe I heard you say was that all proceeds from the science of scaling that you're selling was going to
mental health.
Yeah. And we're huge believers in giving. We're huge believers in, right? It's called Win, Make, Give.
Shout out to my therapist, Glenda, by the way. Chad, anytime we bring up mental health, we got to shout out my girl, Glenda.
And Glenda, anytime you want to come on the podcast, you contact me.
I'm not giving you her last name, Chad. Get over it.
She might be the third listener, Bob. She might find me. All right, Mark, if it's okay with you, I'd love to know what motivated that, because there's no logical connection to the science of scaling to mental health.
Not directly in terms of the methodology
unless you've been in a boiler room in sales, bud, then there's a lot of mental health.
Heck yeah. I think there's but it is very attached to something personal as well as something macro I'm seeing. There's two reasons for it. First off, I always try to use my platform, as you guys do an awesome job too, of like bettering society. And there still is a stigma around mental health. I have been a caretaker. I've had many friends go through things, and I've been a patient. And a lot of people can't say that because of the stigma associated with it. When we interview a candidate and we find out that they were a cancer survivor 10 years ago, you probably elevate your perception of that individual. When you hear that they were in a psychology hospital and struggle with mental health, you have concerns. And it's just not fair. They're both diseases, often genetic. And that's, I've been very blessed with certain aspects of my resume that society values, and I can stand up bravely and be open about these things. And that's just one way I choose to use my platform, and one reason why I was really motivated to choose that cause for this work. I think the second one is a little closer to the tech community and bleeds into society. Every winter, I bring 50 students out to Silicon Valley and for a week to study now artificial intelligence and AI. And we get access to all the big wigs at OpenAI and NVIDIA, and just like closed door, talk to them. It's awesome. I learned so much. And recently, the students have been a bit shocked at how much energy and talent and capital is going into building this new tech of AI, and how little is going into helping society adjust and evolve to absorb it. And I think holistically, as we entered the internet era 20 years ago, I think we came out a more evolved society, but not without scars. Like there was some pretty significant scars there, and they're going to be worse with AI. I think as we mature over the next 10 years through the AI evolution, as a species, we will evolve to a higher state, but there will be massive scars. And we have an opportunity to offset those scars. So it's a bit of a calling, especially to my tech builders, that, work your butts off to build this stuff, but make sure you find an equal balance to do your part in helping society absorb it. This is my little contribution right now, and I'll do more later.
I love that. Love that, right? It's win, make, give. So we are happy that you have won, and therefore you have made, and which gives you the opportunity to give at a high level like that. So folks, if you're on the fence about picking up your copy of The Silence of Scaling, using data to decide when and how fast to scale revenue, you're doing good by picking up a copy of that book, because all proceeds are going to mental health. All right.
Mark, can I want to ask a question. When you're watching entrepreneurs scale, what's one of the biggest potholes they step in? Like, what's a real common issue that people run into when scaling that that's avoidable?
Oh, there's a long list of them. I think we covered the value part. I would say they over-index on how another company, successful company, did it 10 years ago without regard of the uniqueness to their context. So like in my area, people would be like, oh, like we're about to scale. What did HubSpot do from year 2 to year 3 to year 4? What was their revenue targets? How many salespeople did they hire? How did they pay their salespeople? How did they assign quotas? How did they generate demand? All those things, from hiring profiles to demand gen strategies to sales methodology, those are choices in your go-to-market system design. And that's the big mistake that founders, CEOs make, is they copy someone with a different context without regard of your context. And your context is, what are you selling product to who? Audience. Like, you have a very different go-to-market system design if you're selling pencils to K through 12 schools versus selling satellites to governments. It's a very different rep with a different quota, with a different sales methodology. That's an extreme example that makes it obvious. But, even just like a company that was scaling in 2015 versus today, that context has shifted. I call that the inappropriate cut and paste. So you really have to optimize all those decisions within your context.
Man, every time you answer a question, I got 30 more. Is there a best way to incentivize sales reps?
No, that's part of the go-to-market system design, is how you pay them. And I'll tell you, it's so...
Here's why I asked this question, Mark. My wife is in like corporate sales, in the transportation industry. She's worked for a few different companies, and it seems like every year or every quarter in some of these companies, they're like changing the sales plan, right? I feel like that's like an Office Space reference, a joke or something, but totally. So there's constantly trying to figure it out, do it different, incentivize the reps while making sure the company's making money. Like, it's just... I've watched her for 15 years. It's just always moving.
There's a lot. There's some best practices of first principles on how you do this. You're asking about one particular aspect, Bob, of like how often it's changed.
What's the best way?
Yeah, if you change it a lot, it totally defeats itself, because the whole point is to drive a particular behavior. But if you're constantly changing it, reps are going to be like, forget it. Why would I adjust? They're just going to change it anyway. So like you have to be a little careful around the pace. And at the same time, like, your business changes, the needs of the business changes, and you want to align the comp plan too with it. So usually anywhere between 1 and 2 years is probably a good sequence. But the first principles manner is, start in the CEO seat, start in the president's seat. What is our strategic objective for the next year? And once we understand that, can we incent particular behaviors on the front line to support those strategic objectives? And then how can we align the comp plan with that? So perhaps we're bringing a critical new product to market. Salespeople are by nature just going to go back to the products they already know. So in order to offset that, and I know I need to really accelerate market share penetration with this new product, I'm going to obviously pay a higher commission on that product, okay? A common one in what we've been talking about is, we just said, hey, someone might be listening, like, you're right, Mark, I want to orient my sales on value creation, not on revenue and signed contracts. So a simple one there is, pay them half the commission when they get the contract signed and the payment, and the other half when that early value indicator occurs. Right? So in HubSpot, it's like, we pay you half the commission when you get the contract and the payment, and the other half when the person uses 5 features for the first time, which can happen in a week. But that just gets because usually the reasons why they don't use the 5 features is because the seller never pitched them.
I love that.
It's all about how the sales team, tie it back to the strategic objective. Start in the C-suite on what you're trying to achieve and align the comp plan with that.
Loving the conversation. Folks, we've been talking with Mark Roberge, and we've talked about his book. We want you to get yourself a copy of it. We've talked about some amazing things from him. Mark, if somebody had a question, wanted to reach out, wanted to connect, wanted to follow you, whether it's on TikTok or somewhere else, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Most active on LinkedIn. Yeah, I've been there for a long time, and I try to keep up with the messages and the follows. So ping me there, and I'll get back to you there. That's the best spot.
Bob's doing it right now as we speak. I see him picking up his phone. I'm sure he's searching for LinkedIn to connect with you. Mark, we really appreciate you taking the time, joining us here today on the call, sharing everything you've got. We wish you the best with this book. We look forward to you coming back when you write the next one. How about that?
God bless, guys. I appreciate the platform. I really appreciate it. Great conversation.
All right, folks. Don't forget to share the episode with someone that needs to hear something about scaling or even something about selling, because we talked about all of it in there today. And until our next episode, as always, do good.